Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Armchair GMs episode. Kyle is not with us today, but I'm joined by
Luke.
This is always backwards. I can't stop it. What am I doing?
I'm over
There,
here.
I got it. Oh my gosh.
It would fix itself if we just did this.
Yeah, but then I would.
Well, it doesn't fix itself.
Exactly. Yeah. Welcome to my pain. The show that'll bring you a fantasy championship as usual. We're still working on it. I think we're both kind of like done in our leagues.
Basically,
have officially.
I did have a big win this week, and I didn't even touch my team, which is hilarious to me.
Oh yeah. So we're gonna do a very short episode for everybody just to get you prepped for the Turkey week of football. Let's go into sleeper seekers from last week. I told you to pick up AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon specifically, I'm going to look up and tell you how many points he had. Will you look up Donta Foreman for me while I'm looking up?
Sure, absolutely.
Dillon? So as I predicted, I said Aaron Jones would probably not be playing this week. Shocker. Didn't think he'd be healthy enough in time to do that. I love when my app freezes.
You need me to look it up.
AJ Dillon had 15 points. Rodgers really went to the air a lot, but 15 is still pretty solid for a running back, especially a backup running back. Don't give up on him yet. I don't think Aaron Jones is going to play again. He just that's just a bad injury to come back from. Let's go on over. I told you Donta Foreman. What did Foreman have, Luke?
Donta Foreman did not do as well. He had 25 yards rushing and one reception for 15 yards. That lands him a 5 points.
Yikes. Although in all fairness, the Titans themselves did not look good at all against the Texans of all teams.
This is amazing.
I did tell you to pick up Kendrick Bourne and maybe stash him. Don't play him. That's good because he only had 8.90 points this week. Will you look up Jamal Agnew? I'm going to go over to Hunter.
Jamal Agnew had 2 yards rushing. The wide receiver for the Jaguars and had 3 receptions for 18 total yards. Another 5-point performance, and now he is on the injury reserve. Yeah,
we weren't really sure what to make of him. He was kind of getting like a Cordarrelle type of like vibe in Jacksonville. I mean, that's great, I guess, for them. Let's talk about Hunter Henry next. He only had 4.50 points. He's good, but unfortunately he's very touchdown dependent. And they just didn't really get it going that way, which reminds me of the last person I told you to pick up, Mac Jones. Mac Jones had a kind of abysmal outing with only 12 points. If you had the kicker for the Patriots, you're happy. Nick Folk, I think. But Mac Jones just did not look great against a terrible defense. I wouldn't say get rid of him yet. Check to see what kind of matchup he's going to have and then kind of play it that way. We're going to do this week's Sleeper Seekers. I am not going to do stats for these. I'm just going to tell you the guys. Elijah Moore. Listen, I talked about it a couple weeks ago. I'm telling you, he's kind of hitting his stride. I did manage to pick him back up because somebody dropped him.
Just so we all know, last week he did have 15 yards rushing, 8 receptions for 141 yards, and a touchdown, landing him a solid 29.6 points.
He did, which was really good. Michael Gallup, listen, CeeDee Lamb has COVID, or sorry, not CeeDee Lamb. Mari Cooper has COVID. CeeDee Lamb had an injury. Not sure he's going to come back on a short week. So maybe it's the Michael Gallup game. Scoop him up. Maybe stick him on your bench. Maybe start him. I mean, it's really up to what your wide receiver status looks like. Maybe start him because you know what? Dak likes to throw quite a bit. And
that is true. And he got 9.4 points last week with 5 receptions and 44 yards. And that's against Kansas City's defense, which has not been fantastic, I would say. So exercise caution, I would say, with this pick. But, I mean, Dak's going to have to go to the air at some point. And with some of the main people out, he's going to have to depend on some of those secondary targets.
Absolutely true. Let's go on to somebody else. Not sure that he's gonna play because he has a strained MCL, but maybe he's a good pickup to have for the future. It is Adam Troutman. If you play in a dynasty league, maybe he would be a good guy to pick up. He had 16.80 points. He had 5 receptions, 58 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Pretty good for a Saints passing offense that doesn't exactly look great. Be looking for Adam Troutman. Maybe he comes back from that MCL sprain sooner. I'll just go ahead and be kind enough to say don't count on it. Let's move on over to our next person, somebody that I thought was completely irrelevant in fantasy. We talked about it last week. The shocker for the week, Cam Newton. He was 21 of 27, 189 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 10 rushes for 46 yards, and a rushing touchdown. It's pretty good.
That's landing him a solid 30 bomb in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty solid. My only caution would be, is he going to do that every week, especially when you have a healthy McCaffrey back in the backfield? And, I mean, you've got DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. It's not bad targets, but is the arm there for him to like consistently do that? It looked like it on Sunday, but I'm not gonna bank on that every week. Keep him on your bench if you have a better option. Just kind of play him week to week if it's a good matchup defensively. I will go over to Jeff Wilson. He didn't look.
He didn't look good even against Jacksonville. He had 50 rushing yards and 1 reception for 8 yards. The running back for San Francisco, right. Landing him 6.8 points. So not a performance to write home about.
Right. Well, and the only reason I have him on here, if Elijah Mitchell is inactive again, it appears that we found who the 49ers are going to lean into, which is disappointing. I really thought it was going to be Sermon. Didn't quite turn out that way. Jeff Wilson, just keep an eye on him. If Mitchell is out, he might be a flex start, but he's definitely not going to be a starting running back for you. And let's round this out with a surprise shocker. Kind of glad that I keep picking him up and putting him on my bench to not help me. Is Devonta Freeman. You know what? He is kind of having himself a consistent like spurt of points. 11, 12, 16, 8, and then 20. I mean, if you look at just the points, it's not great. But if you look at his rush attempts, it's gone 9, 4, 13, 10, 16. He is getting the ball quite a bit for an offense that likes Lamar Jackson. Now, granted, Lamar was not there for the game against the Bears, which is why he got a higher run share. Maybe that continues if Lamar isn't back this week. Devonta Freeman maybe could be a little start for you, especially because he had 20 points, I think, right?
Yes, he had actually 20 points on the nose, 49 rushing yards with a touchdown and 6 catches for 31 yards receiving.
Listen, I hate to say this. It doesn't matter who you put back there. The Ravens like to run. They really do. So it's not going to be a sexy pick, but it's definitely going to be somebody that's going to be effective week in and week out. Let's scooch on over to Trade Bait quick. We are not doing Jock or Joke, Jock's Grades, or Wheel of Fantasy this week. We are just giving you the meat of our subject. Trade Bait. I put Terry McLaurin. So I'm putting people to help you get to the playoffs. That's what we're doing right now. Terry McLaurin. I don't like Heineke. Heineke's okay. But I do like that the person that benefits the most from Heineke is Terry McLaurin, especially because Curtis Samuel has been MIA this entire season.
Yeah.
Listen, if you've got Terry McLaurin, are we trading for Terry McLaurin or away Terry McLaurin at this point?
Oh, you're probably trading for Terry McLaurin at this point. I mean, just last week I have him on my fantasy team, yay! And he put up a solid 21.3 points in fantasy, 5 receptions for 103 yards and a touchdown. He's been a relatively solid wide receiver 1 for me this year. I would have to go back and look at all of his performances, but he's got we just kind of go back. Okay, he had 11.9 in week 10. He was out, I believe. He had a bye on week 9, 6.5 in week 8, 25.2 week 7 against Green Bay. And so he's had some very quality performances, 30.3 points in week 4 against Atlanta. So he's had some bad performances, but he's had some good performances as well. I think a lot of it depends on matchup for the Washington football team when you look at Terry McLaurin. But I believe that would be a great person. I mean, he might not be your wide receiver one, but he would be a great tool to have on your bench. I've had a lot of people approach me for looking to acquire him in trades this year.
Yeah, he is most definitely an interesting prospect. The next one is Jamar Chase. I'm going to go ahead and say you want to trade for him. He didn't have an explosive outing last week, so maybe you can kind of give a lower offer and say, hey, take him off your hands. Look like you're running back needy. Here's a running back for you. I could really use a receiver. You are going to have a harder sell because he is sitting at number 5 for receivers total for the year. But I think some people may come off of him because running backs are just so hard to come by. And if you have an extra one on your bench that's doing well, maybe try to do that. Maybe a pick swap, maybe another receiver. Do what you can. Get Jamar Chase. It's going to help you. Here's somebody that I think you could get for really cheap that's going to go off. DK Metcalf. Listen, he is the number 1 target for Russell Wilson. Don't care who you are. Yeah, the Seahawks are struggling, but they're going to pass the ball more than not, especially when Chris Carson is out for the entire season. You're not going to run with Alex Collins like 15 times a game. It's not going to happen. Russ is going to throw. Russ is going to look for DK Metcalf. I'm guessing DK Metcalf owners are a bit frustrated with him currently.
I would encourage not to get caught up in recency bias there. Ever since the bye week, he's not performed well. But prior to the bye week, there hasn't been a game that he was under 10 points.
That's what I'm telling you. Like he'll be a cheap get at this point because people are looking for something explosive to get them into the playoffs. If you can get Metcalf for cheap, go for Metcalf. The last one, you're welcome. I did tell you to pick him up.
Yes, you did.
And I called it the right week too and told him to start. Is Brandon Ayuk. Listen, everyone has been talking about Deebo Samuel this year, and that's great. But don't forget that Samuel was non-existent last year in that offense. Just so many problems to keep him on the field. And Ayuk benefited from that. I don't think Ayuk is just not a thing for that offense. Like
he has exceeded 10 points in 3 out of the past 4 games.
Right. Which, I mean, that's pretty good for a receiver that no one is quite sure about. Put your chips in. Cash in on Brandon Ayuk while you can. Honestly, if you have Kittle, Ayuk, or Deebo Samuel, just hang on to him. Or that's why I'm saying Ayuk is going to be your easiest to trade for. Definitely going to come in and smash things for you, but don't give away the whole farm for Ayuk. That's kind of where I sit with him.
Yes.
Like he's good.
If you can get him for cheap, grab him. If he's already in the possession of someone who kind of knows what they're doing, then you're probably going to have to pay a little bit more upfront, at which point it's like probably not the best idea.
Right. All right. With that being everything, so sorry this is a short episode, but wanted to make sure that we had you geared up for week 12 of fantasy in the NFL. I have been Brad, and this is Luke. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We will see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.